Hi, everybody. My name is Myles Wallace, and I'm with Peak Performers. We're a nonprofit staffing and recruiting agency that helps professionals with disabilities find jobs and advance their careers. We also help employers find great talent. I've got a very special guest today. Ryan, would you mind introducing yourself?
My name is Ryan Rotundo, and I'm the manager of employment programming with the National Down Syndrome Society. The National Down Syndrome Society is the leading human rights organization for all individuals with Down syndrome.
And I'm so excited to talk with you today because we were having a conversation the other day, and you really were able to change my mind about what it means to have Down syndrome and change the way that I view it. And I hope that you can do it for the viewers today. Really, a lot of us might think of autism already on a spectrum. With Down syndrome, they exist on a similar spectrum as well. Would you mind talking to that?
I think it's a great sort of paradigm shift to look at all individuals as having, a variety of strengths and areas of need for support. I can attest to the fact that there are many individuals with Down syndrome living in this country and around the world that have very different abilities. I have worked for an individual with Down syndrome who owned his own restaurant and had a thriving public speaking career. I have worked alongside individuals with Down syndrome who are registered lobbyists and share testimony before the United States Congress. And I've also worked with individuals with Down syndrome in the classroom as a former special education teacher for about 10 years in North Carolina. So I've had a lot of those different experiences and can certainly say that there are a lot of different abilities and a variety of strengths, needs, and aspirations for what these individuals hope to do with their future.
Could you tell me a little bit more, just for people that might not be as familiar with Down syndrome? What is Down syndrome exactly?
So Down syndrome is a genetic abnormality that occurs prior to birth. So it is something that takes place or that is present at the genetic or at the cellular level, and it is a partial or full additional copy of the 21st chromosome. So an individual with Down syndrome would have a third 21st chromosome. And that number, that 321, is actually pretty significant in the Down syndrome community. We celebrate World Down Syndrome Day on March 21st, so 321, and that is again from that characteristic there. There are some physical characteristics that might be more identifiable or recognizable in someone with Down syndrome, and those include somewhat lower muscle tone, a smaller stature, a little bit of an upward slant to the eyes, and in some cases, a single crease across the palm of the individual's hand, known as a single palmer's crease. Every person with Down syndrome is unique, and not all of them possess these particular characteristics.
What would be some myths that you personally would want to debunk about people with Down syndrome, or you feel especially things that employers may not completely understand?
One of the myths around people with Down syndrome that I often hear is that, they might just be slow. That's a term that you might hear a lot, and that might be in reference to physical ability, getting from one place to another, or even from a cognitive or processing standpoint.
Hmm.
And once again, I want to point back to the fact that we all have strengths and areas of need, right? So when it comes to just the physical space, there are, again, people with Down syndrome that compete in athletic events and in competition, whether in Special Olympics or Paralympics. We know individuals with Down syndrome that have swum the English Channel. There are some really amazing feats when it comes to athleticism. There's oftentimes a preconceived notion that a person with Down syndrome just might not be able to maintain the same level of work and productivity as their what you might call non-disabled counterparts. Again, this is on a case-by-case basis. We have to look at the individual, their strengths, their areas of need for support, and realize that if given the right amount of support or the right types of support, or even just given the opportunity to pursue the most appropriate occupation, those individuals will truly thrive. One sort of myth or preconceived notion to Down syndrome is that individuals with Down syndrome have a short life expectancy. And it has been noted and research the early 1980s, the life expectancy for a person with Down syndrome has gone from about 25 to 30 years old, now being somewhere in the mid 60s. And with this, we also see sort of a shift in what happens during those latter adult years of life, and therefore looking at how employment as a quality of life factor can be very important for the individual with Down syndrome.
And I understand that working with folks with Down syndrome is something very personal for you. Would you mind sharing your own family story?
I have an older sister with Down syndrome. Her name is Nicole, and she's about 3 years my senior. And really, I attribute to a lot of my choices in life to my sister blazing the trail and being just a tremendous inspiration for me growing up. My sister had to approve of the friends that I had growing up, and I had to see that they treated her with respect and dignity as well. I first met my wife when we were high school sweethearts. I brought her home, and it's that whole traditional thought of meeting the parents. Well, it was meeting the sister, and if she passed the sister test, then she was good. But I often say that people in my situation as a sibling, but other people as well, can be cool by association when they know somebody with Down syndrome.
Would you mind telling me a little bit more about the National Down Syndrome Society and also how people might become involved with the organization?
So the National Down Syndrome Society is a national level nonprofit organization that serves people with Down syndrome and their families. It started in the late 1970s and has been running strong for many decades now. We have several different sort of program areas where we hope to serve individuals with Down syndrome. We focus on employment, health and wellness, of course, education, and public policy is kind of sprinkled throughout all of that, as we do want to, continue to have an influence at the federal, state, and local levels and helping folks advocate for positive change. And with the education program as well as the employment program, there's a lot of connectivity when we look at how individuals with Down syndrome might go through the school system and prepare for that transition into employment.
If you're excited about working with folks with Down syndrome or helping them find a job, Peak Performers is going to have some additional links in this video, and Ryan is also going to include some links to additional resources as well, including a very popular page about people with Down syndrome who run their own businesses.
We have a great page that features entrepreneurs with Down syndrome. We have close to 100 in our database. There's some amazing stories of people that have multi-million-dollar businesses, retail, you name it, art, food and beverage industry. It kind of really runs the gamut, but some really great pages to visit. And who knows, there might be some folks in your hometown and you just don't know about them. So you could check out those pages and be able to support those businesses.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been exciting talking with you and learning a little bit more about Down syndrome. If you are an employer and you would like to hire a person with a disability or a person with Down syndrome, feel free to reach out to Peak Performers or to Ryan, and we are happy to help guide you along that path. Or if you are a job seeker yourself and you have Down syndrome, we would be happy to talk with you a little bit more about the different resources that are available for you. Thanks again for coming on today, Ryan. And again, this has been Myles from Peak Performers signing off, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you, Myles.